And our topic of the week this week comes from The Atlantic. Now, I'm going to open their article right here because it's an interesting article. The article is called Video Games Without Stories Are Better. Or no, sorry, let me rephrase that. Video games are better without stories. And essentially it boils down to the point that film, television, and literature all tell stories better. So why are games still obsessed with narrative? And this kind of spawned an argument on Twitter of like, are video game stories comparable to movies, television, and books? And like, what can we do with that information? So immediately, like, what's your take on that?
So I think that you and I talked about it a bit earlier in the week, but I think that the mediums are similar, but they're not similar enough to make this direct comparison. And the way that I described it is that, Blessing, if you wanted to write a book, if you had time, you could write a book by yourself, you and a Word document. That's it. That's all that's really needed to write a book. You know, maybe an editor, maybe a proofreader, maybe an illustrator. But that's what a book. That's what's required to make a book, right? But to make a video game is like infinitesimally more difficult. Like you need a sound team. You need, or maybe like I'm talking like a high level Call of Duty-esque style game, right? You need a sound team. You need a like realism team to make sure that there's the guns, and like you need a Foley team. You need like all this sort of stuff. You need 3D graphics. You need motion capture. You need hundreds of people to work on this game. Like how many people does it take to work on a GTA game?
Oh yeah,
like exactly. But I'm not comparing like the stories of GTA to like Hamlet or some shit. But one second, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh God, I'm done.
Bless you.
Oh God.
God bless you.
Oh God.
God bless America.
Oh God.
I did not have relations with that woman. You good?
But anyway, so like I'm in no way comparing GTA to like Hamlet or something. But I think that we're in a place where we shouldn't need to do that, because it's obvious to anyone that knows anything about video games that they're a non-starter. You can't compare video games to traditional story media because of how they're created. The process by which it's created, it's completely different. Like that's like saying like, oh yeah, you draw pictures, can you 3D model something for me? I mean, yeah, dude, you can both look at them on a computer, but they're not the same thing in any way. I don't know how to use those programs. I don't know how to put that together. It takes completely different skills, you know? And like, I agree that like, yeah, video games sometimes have scripts there, and sometimes there are traditional narratives, but when you're reading a book, that book is a guided experience that you have literally almost no control over, because I mean, unless you're reading like a choose your own adventure book or whatever. But video games, the entire reason they exist is because of choice and because of navigating a 3D space and like problem solving, and like it takes a completely different part of your brain, you know? Like there's a level of interactivity that you don't get in books or movies that you do get in games. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why games have the ability to ascend to a higher level than TV and movies and books. But I don't think we should compare them. That's like my hot
essentially
take.
saying like apples to oranges.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Nice.
It doesn't make any sense. You're only sorry. So to me, you seem foolish because it seems like you don't understand how video games are made if you're making the argument that they can even be compared. And like, for example, we have friends on like Twitter who are like, yeah, well, it's obvious that books are better. Yeah, it's obvious that games are better. But in my opinion, yeah, if you wrote the script out of a video game and you wrote the script out of a book, obviously a book is going to be better because a book's only tool is the written medium. So obviously, word for word, it's going to be better. Like, but then again, the video game space lives with different parameters, lives with different tools. You know what I mean? Like, even when we talk about like a comic book to a TV show, like the comparisons, there's so many different things that a TV show has to do to be entertaining than a book does to be entertaining, or a comic book has to be entertaining. So it feels it doesn't feel good to compare the two because they're living on completely different platforms. Even if we're just going by word for word, books are better. You know?
Yeah, like I think you're completely right. And for me, so last night, actually, I spent last night writing a script for a video I want to put up on this very topic, because this is actually like the idea of video game stories actually like very much fascinates me, and actually like I have some kind of a passion for it for some reason. I don't know why, but like I get very fired up about video game stories and the capability for video game stories, and like I do the argument that like I think you're right in the terms that like they can't be comparable. Like they're very different mediums that require very different things. And like a storybook, and I wrote this in my piece, that like a book is very straightforward, right? You have words to a page, and that's kind of like your only that's the writer specific method of delivering that information is through words on a page. And that I think that gives specific perks and benefits, such as like a writer is able to get their clear message across. Like you're not held back by like the visual aspects of it. You're not held back by production. You're not held back by anything. Essentially, like what you say is what you get. And as a reader, as I'm reading this, like what I get from a book is what I get in the story. And as a reader, I'm allowed to use my imagination to fill in the gaps. And so like I don't know how this guy looks in The Kite Runner, and so like I use my imagination and what the narrator has given me, and it said like, okay, this person with brown skin, long hair, whatever. I'm able to take that and picture it in my brain. I think that's a benefit for books. And movies and TV have their own benefits, right? Like movies have the benefit of having
high production value,
like high production value, but not even that. Like the ability to visualize a story. Like you're in a book, you're not able to like watch anything, right? You're not able to like see something happen. In a movie, in TV shows, you're able to like see things happen. You're able to like see Han die in like this pit of flames, right? Or you're able to like watch this kid in 13 Reasons Why fall off his bike for the fifth time. Like I'm able to see these things and understand this story as it's shown to me. And I think the thing about games, right? Like in my video, in my script, I've touched on three specific things, right? And this might change by the time I make it a video, but so far I touched on three specific things about games that I think games do uniquely from television or books or movies. One of these things being choice, and this is like the very obvious thing, right? Is in books you're not able to give the reader choice. In fact, the reader isn't able to embody the life of a protagonist or embody like a character within that story, right? In games, you're a player is able to embody a character and also like have choices in how that story plays out. So like I'm about to give spoilers for season 1 of Walking. Have you played season 1 Walking Dead?
Yes, I think so.
So like, yes. Skip forward 3 minutes if you don't want to hear spoilers for Walking Dead. So like, in Walking Dead season 1, right? There is in episode 3, I think, there is a scene where like one of these kids named Ducky, he's like bitten by a walker, and his father is there. Actually, I think it's you and his father are like there alone with him in the woods after you see he's gotten bit. It's been forever since I played, so I could be like making certain things up, but like I think you're given the choice of whether you want to kill Ducky or you want to allow his father to kill Ducky, and I think choices like that add a lot more weight than you're able to get from a book or a movie. And like there's the ending of Walking Dead, even like the Walking Dead ends with you as a character dying, and you have to decide whether or not you're going to have this character that you've grown with throughout the story put a bullet in your head, or like whether you're going to want them to like go away and allow you to like turn into a zombie. Like choices like that, like there's choices like that in books and in movies and stuff, but they don't allow you to make that choice. And I think there's a different weight given there. Like there are moments where playing games I feel guilt, like personal guilt while playing a game that I can never get from a book or a movie, because
and you have personal responsibility in what happens to the character because you're the one committing atrocities, or you're the one doing these things, you know?
Exactly. And that's not even to say that like this is something that actually I think this specific thing is something that games do better than books or movies, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the medium is better. That just means that this medium has the ability to allow you to do that certain thing, right? And then there's the idea of like pacing, right? Where like movies have a specific pacing, right? This movie's 2 hours, this thing happens, and this thing happens, right? A book has pacing, right? Page 1 this happens, page 2 this happens, and you're reading it, and like you can read things slower, but things happen as they happen. In games, right? Like we both played Zelda. In Zelda Breath of the Wild, like the pacing is totally on the player, because like you can approach the story from any direction you want. You can decide to like end the story like 10 hours in by like going straight to the end objective. You can draw the story out 120 hours by like experiencing all these mini stories within the story. You have choice in how you want to experience that story. And also to add to that, like there's storytelling going on in the environment. Like in books and movies, right? You're not allowed to explore yourself, right? In movies, you can see like an environment, but like there's camera direction, there's specific scripted moments showing the viewer exactly what the director wants the viewer to see. In the book is explaining things to you, and you can use your mind to like fill in gaps and have exploration that way. But in games, like you have the specific space that has been created for you, the specific environment, and you have to explore that environment. And you're allowed to explore that environment, and stories are told through the environment. In BioShock, you have like words written on walls with like blood saying that, like, I don't know what the help me or something like that, right? And that tells a specific story, and as a player, you're able to look at that yourself, right? You're able to like control your character and look under tables, look everywhere, and see the story that each individual element of that environment is telling. And so like I understand the idea of people saying that, like, oh yeah, well, books are obviously better because like they're more seasoned. And I think that's where that sentiment comes from, is the fact that books have been around since humans have been able to write, right? Movies have been around. And I think
that sentiment is accurate, actually.
Yeah, and I think it's accurate too. And like movies have been around for like the last like over 100 years, right? And video games are relatively a new thing. And so if you're be like, okay, I'm going to take the best stories in books, the best stories in movies, and the best stories in games and compare them. Obviously, like the best books are going to beat the best movies, which are going to beat the best games. But I do think that like a million years from now, right, if video games are still a thing, I think you could compare the best video games at that time to the best literature of that time. Like, I think each individual medium has their strengths and how they play, how the products of that medium play to their strengths. And I think that video games, I think right now, I don't know if I would say video games take full advantage of their capabilities. I think there are moments where they do, like the example from Last of Us, or like things like choices that I was given in Life is Strange that like affected the story drastically, that gave me like personal guilt because I made the wrong choice, right? Like, I think there are moments that I've seen, like a lot of moments I've seen, where games take advantage of their capabilities as games that are unique from books and movies to tell the specific stories they're trying to tell. But I think that, like, yeah, overall, like there are better stories told through movies and books, specifically books, like currently, that we have. But that's because like games, I think, are still relatively a young medium, and they haven't gotten the chance to like fully shine in that regard.
Yeah,
I know I just went on for probably forever.
No, I completely understand, but like that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at, is that the medium is too young for us to compare it. And that's what I'm saying, is if we wrote out like word for word a script of a video game and a word for word a script of the writing of a movie, or a script of like a book, yeah, of course it wouldn't be the same. It's not comparable because books only have words to tell the story.
Exactly.
So I don't understand where this argument even comes from. It's like, oh yeah, well, games should only be about... But then also saying games should only be about gameplay is also super reductive. Why would you try and remove that, you know? Like, games are a multi-layered experience. Books are books are almost like a relationship, kind of. Like, you know, you have this one-on-one experience with this book, and then you live that experience out by yourself, you know? But games... Like, even Zelda Breath of the Wild was a single-player game, but it was experienced by so many people at once. And, like, multiplayer games. Do you ever have a multiplayer book? Like, that's not how the medium works. Games have the opportunity to have these, like, fun, competitive environments and, like, high-level strategy and stuff. Like, they're on a different level. Not necessarily in a good way or a bad way, but they're just on a different... They're more complex in terms of their interactability.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, multiplayer games could even tell a story, right? Like Call of Duty multiplayer, a match in Call of Duty multiplayer, right? The level you play in tells a story of like what happened in that level. Like you look around, everything's exploded, everything's crazy. That's a story right there that's being told through the level, and it's not
environmental
explicit.
storytelling.
Yeah, environmental storytelling. It's not as explicit as a book, but it's something that a book couldn't do because like you can't walk around a book, like, and I mean, and that's not disparaging books. Books do what books do, and they're good at what they do because like they're like the classic medium for storytelling, right? Other than like verbal, but I guess that's the same thing of like it's books and words are both like verbal. But like, yeah, dude, like the Gone Home tells a story, right? And that's more explicit. But like even like games like Overwatch tell a story, and that story is kind of explicit, but even through gameplay and looking around, like I don't know, like different things do different things well. And I think the idea, like Super Mario, the first Super Mario game, that game tells a story. And like the person who wrote the Atlantic article who's saying that like games like shouldn't focus on story, shouldn't have story, whatever, like Super Mario 1 is like a game that like revolutionized gameplay. And you might not think it has a story, but it has a story. Like you look at those mushroom boxes and think like, okay, where did those come from? You look at the Goombas and be like, where did those come from? Why is Mario in this place? Like there are all these questions that you ask yourself as you're playing this game. And I mean, in my opinion at least, I think that's storytelling. But like, I mean, I think people might disagree, but like that's all. I think that's also like an example of environmental storytelling of like you're walking through this place, you go into this pipe. You go into this underground world and you're trying to save this princess, and there's all these weird things happening, but there's a story there that's being told. It's not an explicit story. It's not like very detailed story. It's not even like a great story, to be honest, but it's still like a story being told in a way that's exclusive to video games. And so that's
agree.
my whole argument with it. Yeah,
we didn't disagree at all. We just completely agree the entire time.
I thought this was going to be a debate. We honestly said the same thing in different ways.
Why is it whenever people like at traditional like magazines or article producers that are into video game magazines, why does it always sound like video games should stop being made? Like why does it always sound like they like hate video games? Like why? Like are we ever gonna get to a point in our popular media where people are like, yeah, video games they're a good piece of art that can be appreciated?
Thank you so much for checking out this video. Your feedback is important to us. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know what you think. You can find similar videos, podcasts, and articles on okbeast.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at OKBeast Now. For everything games and culture related, make sure to keep it locked right here on OKBeast.